Anusia, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I love all the beautiful work that you're doing in the world that I know about. So I'm eager to hear all the other yummy things you're up to. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to meet you live.
It's going to be so fun. And I would love to just kick off our conversation by asking, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
I am saying yes to myself in this season by being in the seat of my body, as Danny Shapiro would say, who's a writer and has this magical workshop at Kripalu that I went to recently. And that just means coming back into the present and listening to your body and having that be more of an intuitive guide than your mind.
Oh my gosh, that is so gorgeous. And can you say that string of words together again, please? What did she
I
call
don't
it?
know if I can say
No,
the
but
string
just
of
like
words
the
together again.
seat of your nose,
Yes.
like what did you call it? The seat of your nose.
Yeah, the seat of your body. I mean, she talks about writing and how we hold things in the back seat of our body. So any kind of feeling that we have that then we're trying to tap into, it's in the back seat of your body. And so you kind of have to go there to resurface those feelings and maybe write about them and let them go. But I guess this is a bit of a twist on it in living in the seat of my body, and just being more grounded that way and intuitive than just constantly kind of in my mind.
Right. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I know it's intended to do this, but it does just, it's another set of words that to me mean being present, being dropped in. But I love how new words
Hmm.
land on a familiar concept and a practice that, there's something about any routine or practice that you're doing. It was in service to you when you started, but sometimes you need to tweak it, whether that's increase the weights or increase the distance or use a different muscle set. And in this case, just that different title, it just calls you in differently.
Well, that's wonderful feedback to hear. This has come up a lot for me recently, actually, with people saying, "Yeah, we're all saying the same things in different ways, and that's important. It's not that we're just repeating ourselves. It's important to say them in different ways because it's filtering through your perspective, filtering through your experience, and then that's resonating with someone in a different way, and maybe just at the right time." A recent example. I've heard how long have you heard eyes on your own paper? Like probably
Right.
back in grade school when it's like don't look at, someone else's test or something. And my yoga instructor said it. She says it often actually, but it really struck me the other day when she says eyes on your own paper, she's saying, don't compare your pose to someone else's pose. It's your pose. But I've taken it through life recently too, and it's like, no, you're doing you, eyes on your own paper. You don't need to compare yourself, that kind of thing, in whatever way. And it just was said a little bit differently and it stuck.
Yes, and I love that because that's even a reframe of, or another way of saying my phrase for 2026 is unconditional alignment.
Mm.
So I aligned was a word that I chose in 2022 and it changed everything in my experience. Like I ended a 22-year marriage that year. I ended and completed and started a lot of things based on, is this a vote for the woman I'm becoming? And so I'm in this new iteration of a similar concept. I'm not just finding alignment in the things and the environments and the relationships that I'm interacting with. I'm seeking out that feeling of alignment regardless of the conditions that are around me, and knowing that, like, me keeping my eyes on my own paper is like I'm only responsible for me and my experience of this moment in time, and I can take all the responsibility for how I feel about anything that's happening because that's all in my power.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if someone agrees or poked me with a stick or whatever whatever the conditions are, I get to practice this alignment regardless of what's going on. So I love that I can also remind myself of that by saying to keep my eyes on my own paper and to be on my own mat and to be in my own experience.
Well, I love that you brought your word back and just have a different riff on it for 2026. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's helpful because now, the time that this is aired, it will be April, and I might need a little iteration because it could be familiar and missing it. Last year, my phrase was let it be easy.
Hmm.
And I found it fascinating that I had to remind myself to let it be easy because I thought that was a permission slip that I only needed to hear one time and that it was just going to revolutionize everything. But it's also a practice. Feeling
Practice.
good is a practice.
Yeah, it really is. Be easy to
Gosh.
practice.
Yes. Do you choose a word for the year?
So my 2025 word was focus.
Mm,
My 2026, it's two words. I'm cheating a little bit.
perfect. It's any way
Is
you want to do it. That's the right way.
soul team, my soul team.
Ooh, I love that. And what does that mean to you?
To me, it means finding my community of people that we expand each other and create in a way that is aligned, to use your word, but from a deeper place, not just we're going to grow this business kind of mission.
Sure. I love that so much. And I'm imagining that it was influenced so much by your book, with Soul Toll, which sounds like, gosh, it would have been nice to have a team
It
that
would
was
have.
aligned into going in this direction. So can you talk about the book and tell me how that has influenced those experiences, have influenced how you're moving into this to 2026 and this entirely new season.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is a new season for me, so saying yes to that as well. So I started writing Soul Toll 5 years ago. And it was really it's fiction, but it's self-help fiction, based on kind of my hero's journey and narrative, but a composite of different parts of life that come together. So it's not kind of a real tracking. And yeah, it would have been nice to have a soul team as I pursued that. Um, but I really did it to put my calling card out to the world and finally be seen and say, hey, this is me. Kind of take it or leave it, and that's fine. But the people who are picking up what I'm putting down, like, I really want to know you, and I really want to hear from you, and I really want to build community with you. And so that's the book, is, in my opinion, a wonderful story that pulls you through in and of itself. But for me personally, it's also that really big kind of inflection point and moment in my life, to build the kind of, you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with kind of thing. And so I want to find my new five people.
I love that. What has your process been for that? Like,
For
I mean,
finding people or
obviously,
for
yeah, yeah, because it's not like there's a dating app and you're like having people fill out a profile, but I think so many of us come to a point in our lives where like, okay, I've been doing this, whatever this is, all of this is, all of these things I've been doing for so long, and I'm good at it, and it served its purpose, and my kids are in college, or I'm completing with the relationship, or we're just reimagining it because life is changing, or I'm completing with the job, whatever. Like all of these things. And so we're getting to this point of who am I now? What do I need? What does it feel like to be well rested and well resourced and well supported and well celebrated and to live a life well lived and have time well spent and just not I'm reinventing myself with no information. It's like I have new information and I would like to take that in going forward. And I think that what I'm trying to do on this podcast is normalize those conversations, hold space for women that are identifying that that's something that they want, whether they're coming here for a solo retreat or, going with on one of my trips to Paris or Edinburgh. Like we're just doing all of these. I think that space to dream is important and it takes time and space. I also think that the pattern interrupt is required so that you can actually give yourself enough space and time to, come to something. But then we've got the implementation. Okay, yeah, now we know we want something different. Who are our participants and our players and the cooperative components that can move this forward? So as you are building this team, what do you think is important, or what have you found is working in the relationships that you do have that you feel are eligible for the top five?
Yeah, thank you for that question and context. I would add to those words conviction as well, as you move forward, because it's really easy to snap back to comfort. Um,
So good.
And I would also share that I started this and wanted to pivot 10 years ago. So planning as well. This is not something that I was able to just kind of snap my fingers and move overnight. So you said, time and space and also planning. A lot of us have built lives that you can't just blow in the wind anymore. If you have infrastructure in your life, there are things to either settle into and say this is good or change. For me, I was a law firm lawyer 10 years ago. And then in a forced meditation, had a moment where I saw that that was not never going to make me feel good inside. And I was on the wrong ladder, on the wrong path. But I had six-figure law school debt. I couldn't just, jump and change everything. Um, but I did anyway. And that was too much too fast.
Mm.
And so it was good in that I was able to put a bit of a calling card out into the world, and make a bit of a career change, but it still moved me back into legal. I was in academia, so it was a better fit, but it was still just a different version of the same thing. And it's taken me 10 years now to kind of plot and plan my way into a different chapter and a different era. And part of that is I've had to maintain the relationships that aren't necessarily part of my soul team, that aren't soul aligned, to get here. And being aware of that while you're doing it is really, really hard. You just want to jump into the next phase. You see things for what they are. It's incredibly draining. And so that's where the word conviction comes to me. Like you have to believe in it enough to kind of go through those moments and that period of time. Um, so now that I'm able to come up for air, and really kind of embody what this next chapter is going to be, I lead in part with the book. So one example is I was on a podcast actually, with a woman named Valeria. She has a nonprofit, Fit for Joy. And I think that word joy is really meaningful for me. Anyone who's talking about joy, who's seeking that, who's really determined isn't quite the right word, but maybe that's their 2026 word is joy.
Right. Prioritize,
Yeah.
prioritize joy.
Prioritize joy. That's exactly right. That's a good indicator for me. And then it's a feeling. Do I feel open or do I feel closed? And if this person is making me feel closed, then I'm probably gonna move on. If this person is making me feel open and whole and good, then I want to know more about that. So I guess it's leading with concepts from the book that people are prioritizing, that I am too. And then figuring out if we're prioritizing them in a way that feels aligned or in a way that maybe they're on a different path than I am.
Thank you for that. I love the two specific parts of what you said. I appreciate that it took you 10 years because I think so often, whether we believe the claims to be true or not, we're pretty sure that you can't lose 50 pounds by drinking some pink salt thing in your coffee and whatever. I mean, the ads they're ridiculous. Like, who clicks on this stuff? This is ridiculous. But we have this understanding that that's not true and a desire for a quick fix because we want to feel better. So I appreciate the length of time that you've quantified. Of course, it was actually longer than that, but it's still, but we're playing the long game. That is what we want the result to be lasting. Then the process, no, the process may take a long time in, the realm of time and space, but the suffering in that process, that's where our choice comes in. That's where we make a decision. You said you still had to stay in an environment that wasn't necessarily your dream environment or even your next destination on this very long journey of life. But you found pockets or reasons to celebrate inside of those environments because you are in charge of how you feel and how you experience these things. And so once we find some joyful aspect, whether it's at least this institution is in the city and there are great options for lunch. Like that might have nothing to do with your job, but it's something that you can actually daily reflect on that you're glad about. So just finding one thing that is working in that. And then I also love how you mentioned in your interactions with people, you are allowing yourself, your body, how you feel to determine if this is something that you want to continue with instead of coming from a place of lack where, oh, well, this person has a podcast with this amount of reach, or this person seems like they're on the same page as me. I should obviously choose them. All of these things that we get to feel in to how these interactions are landing for us. And then also, understand the bigger picture of, okay, does this discomfort feel like a growth edge? Like, am I uncomfortable because I'm being challenged or called to the next thing? Or am I feeling uncomfortable because my knower is working and I have intuition? So, how has that played out for you?
Yeah, you've said a lot there, which is wonderful. And I'd like to give one example actually on the um kind of how you find those people. And sorry, not just having the podcast because someone said yes or something like that. I actually was working with a PR team, my first PR team related to the book, and they're expert in book marketing. That's what they do. So I was like, all right, great. This is someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And then pretty quickly in month two, I realized that it was very much an activity and pay to play kind of platform.
Mm.
And I had a conversation with them. I was like, no, I'm the real deal. I think you can find some places for me to have genuine conversations and, not just be kind of slotted into something that I'm paying for to get, or, you can buy bestseller status on Amazon, something I did not know.
Oh, I didn't know that
Yes,
either.
you
How about
can. You
that?
can buy a TEDx talk. You can buy reviews on Amazon. You can buy all these things that I did not know. And I was like, and then what? And then what? I post on LinkedIn, number one bestseller from people who actually didn't read my book. Like, what's the point of that? I don't want to do that. I'm not here for like volume, fake
Right.
volume.
Vanity metrics.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
You want
vanity metrics,
connection.
exactly. I'm here to find my people. And so I switched PR companies and had this conversation with them, and they were absolutely wonderful and found wonderful people and opportunities like you. So
Of
thank you.
course.
But just in case anyone else is in that space, it's like the people you're surrounding yourself with have to be aligned in that way too. And you can fall into things that sound good. And then like I could have gone on with that because it felt good because those metrics, might have I could tell people about them.
Right.
But that just wasn't it. Um, so
I love that.
I
And I
love
just
that
want
part.
to comment on who you went with. It's not all of these PR firms are not created equal. And you can tell for some authors, that first company was the right fit. Like they have clients. So it's obviously working for someone, but you get to trust your individual experience. And I have loved everyone that has come through the PR firm that you're working with. And I love them. And they are doing the work in a way that is aligned with how I do my work. So it makes my yes easy. It makes your yes easy. And it's not about, well, they promise this much exposure in exchange for this amount of investment. And it's all the energetics of it. And then because we are in these aligned situations, that's when the movement comes that doesn't require the numbers associated with the vanity metric,
Mhm.
because that you can't stand on the rungs to that ladder because they're invisible.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, I missed the second part to your
No, no,
question.
no. I'm just like so eager to chat with you as well. Like I'm not like it's all just conversational. I'm not like obviously I don't have a list of questions, but I was just this idea of trusting your inner knowing as you are building this team and knowing that it's not because you chose this desire and intention for 1 year. It doesn't mean that these are now the 5 people that are going to go with you into the rest of your life. It's just training your inner wisdom and your inner knowing to know what feels right and what feels good for right now.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure that there will be time spent in places that I probably shouldn't have spent time as I explore what that means and feels like. Although I have already made one time investment in joining the board of the nonprofit of that woman for the podcast that I met. We just, really hit it off and then spent a couple hours. I learned more about her nonprofit, and it's so strange how her story started in 2015, 10 years ago. Part of the story. I know it starts before that. And also what she's envisioning, what her nonprofit vision is, aligns so much with I built a world in my novel Soul Toll, and it's the like real world version of this world that I built in my novel. And so these kinds of things are happening too, where like when you finally put yourself out there, you do find these parallels and synchronicities that if you're closed off or not sharing, how are you ever going to come across those?
I love that. And I love how it might take time to get there, but once you're there, like it catapults where you want to go. It's so beautiful. It's like, you're too young for this, but in the olden days, we had radios.
I remember radios.
When you're turning the tuner, when you get to the station, the song is already playing. It's
Hmm.
not a group of people that just met at a party and think they should start a band and someone's going to take guitar lessons. Like it's already happening. So once you tap into what your desire is and then you practice what that feels like in the ways that make sense for what is around you right now, then you are matched up with people that are doing those things that are a match for what you want. And it's just so fun. It's how I feel about this podcast and all these people that I meet, and they're so cool and so amazing. And then, I end up going to visit them where they are, and then we do this other thing, and then I'm on the board of a nonprofit also. Like it's just so fun though.
Exactly, exactly. I've never heard, talking about, we started this conversation talking about different ways of hearing things. I've never heard that basically you're hearing the static on the radio before you get into the right frequency. I haven't heard that one before. I like that.
Thank you. I'm so glad. But it's just like it's already happening and it's waiting for us to tune in. And we are in charge of that. We can say that well, if these people acted this way, and if this situation was different, and if I had the money to quit my job and write a book, then I could meet someone on a podcast and then be on there. If you want to write a book, figure out what you need to do to write the book and let it be what it needs to be, but trust yourself. So you have made a lot of changes, and you said one felt a little bit premature, and that contrast is helpful. We know what we want more acutely when we are experiencing what we don't want, which is so great. But how have you kind of implemented a practice, even like as you are talking to people that are resonating with the book and the character development through the book as well, of using all of these steps as a way to qualify our journey, not just the sure-footed lands?
Yeah. Will you clarify your question? I'm not quite
Well,
sure I
I'm just
understand the
thinking like
call of
how
it.
you were able to, like, you left your job and you said that that was a little premature,
Hmm.
but you were still able to just keep going. So
I
instead of
understand. Yep.
making yourself wrong, like how are you implementing this? I just feel like when it's happening, we're just trying to keep up and figure out what the next step is. But when we look back,
Mm.
oh, that it's okay. It wasn't the diversion that I thought it was. It was actually all working out for
I
me.
understand. Thank you. And I think this goes back to the question I missed earlier that now I'm remembering about discomfort and when it's
Sorry, it's why I shouldn't talk to my accountant before I get off the phone to do a podcast interview. I'm like all over.
No, I love it. I love frolicking. But the discomfort and when it's good discomfort and when it's bad discomfort. And I think some of that goes to this question as well, where you can jump and land. And it was bad discomfort because I didn't have the skills I needed to
Mm.
do what I needed to do. And so that answers this question too, in that how do I kind of make sense of it as I move along, even when it's not always known, and or if it feels like a diversion or something like that. And for me, I'm like, well, I was building that skill for something that I'm going to need. For a quick example, I started a Instagram reading. I don't know what I'm doing on Instagram. I just was like, what can I do that I can like batch content and have something regularly. And so I did narrated readings of my novel
Fun.
and put them on Instagram just to have something. But it was really cumbersome. And so I stopped doing it. But that practice, I now have collaborated with my local yoga studio, and we're doing narrative yoga experiences where I
Oh my
read
gosh,
part of the
that's so
book.
cool.
And then we have some flow, and it was just in the paper actually. People are really enjoying it. We're selling out on it. And so I'm like, okay, so that practice of narrating for Instagram wasn't it, but then it helped me get confident in doing readings for this yoga experience over here. So that's kind of how I help myself through the story and through the transitions.
I love that so much. And I love that you didn't finish the Instagram portion. Like you let it just be done. Like
Which
if
was not
someone,
easy.
right, but if someone feels like that was a cliffhanger, they can buy the book, they can go to this yoga studio, they can like there's a lot, but sometimes we make ourselves think that we have to commit to the entirety of something that isn't working.
Hmm.
It's not gonna,
Yeah,
there's not a prize for finishing something that isn't working.
right. Right. I think part of that is finish what you started is so ingrained in our minds, at least mine from childhood. And so it is hard to let go of that. Well, I didn't finish. It's like, well, but why did you start it? Well, I started it to experiment. So if you're experimenting, is the experiment finished? Well, yeah, it is. Okay, great. Move on.
Right. And isn't it all an experiment?
Absolutely.
I think that, like you said, our conditioning makes change scary because, I mean, so many women that I talk to, they're like, well, I need to know like what I'm doing next and if that's going to replace my income at my corporate job. It's like, well, not tomorrow. Like you haven't even started the thing yet. So if you're not going to start until you can replace the corporate, you should just get a job because
Yeah.
that doesn't even make sense. But we sometimes that tape is going uninterrupted in our mind. And once we say it out loud, we realize that there's not a lot of logic in that statement, but yet
It's
it's the
a very
same.
real thing, though. I mean, people build certain lifestyles that they do need a certain salary to be able to make a full change. And so that's where it's like, well, then if you really want to do this, you have conviction and you get up at 5 a.m. on Saturday and get, if you're in my stage of life, childcare coverage and you write all day on Saturday because that's the time that you have.
Right. You have to do it in tandem, but you
Mhm.
can't not start your entrepreneurial journey at six figures. Like
Right.
that's just not how it works. If it did, we'd all be skinny millionaires. Like it's just not how it works.
Well, it goes back to the advertisements, right? Click
Exactly.
here and we got 6 figures and leave your job. Okay.
Exactly. It's just so funny because we know cognitively and just rationally that that doesn't work. And I think sometimes we can still have that expectation for ourselves. And it can be fueled by comparison of what other people are doing. And well, this person read their book on Instagram and they finished, and now they have whatever,
However
25
many
million
followers. Yeah.
followers and zero comments,
Right.
right? Like because there's not engagement. So it's, I think, identifying not only what we want, but what the markers of our personal measure of success along the way. So I think you've done that so beautifully in letting yourself transition and holding the positive elements of you gained confidence in reading your book and you gained courage and you also had the experience and the social credibility of pitching it to the yoga studio because it wasn't just like I'm pitching a lot of things that I was like, I was meditating today and I got this idea and here it is, people. So that, you know, there are some beautiful visible steps that lead you to the next thing. And it's all just to the next thing. It's all, we hear that all the time. It's not the destination, it's the journey. But really, it is. It's the,
I'm really enjoying the word unfolding because something about that feels really comforting. Journey, I've been on a journey at this point. I'm a little tired of the journey.
right?
So I'm more into my surrender phase and just letting the unfolding happen. Because journey just sounds hard right now.
Yes, right. It sounds like I'm carrying heavy things. I
Yeah.
recently went to the movie Wild, that off the book,
I
Cheryl
read the
Strayed.
book. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Just watching little teeny Reese Witherspoon try to get this giant backpack on to start her trek on the Pacific Coast Trail is Like that's what that, thank you for helping me reframe the word journey.
Well, no, I mean, some people that's I have been on a journey, and now I'm trying to move into the unfolding. So it depends
Love
where you
that.
are.
No, and I love that because we do get to choose. We even get to choose how we are evolving, and it gets to be a graceful unfolding in this
After some
beautiful.
work.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing too, just like the lose 50 pounds in 20 seconds by drinking this thing that we all have in our kitchen. So obviously we know that that doesn't work. But it is like you get the success because you've done the reps. And some of the reps were, in marketing, and you had a PR team, but you also have spiritual practices that give your body and your mind time and space to hear what is next and what your next action or waiting is. And when that action is inspired, it's not hard. It's an unfolding. It's the next logical step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add boundaries as well. So I think, you asked kind of how are you meeting these people? And setting boundaries for people who can kind of pull you into their orbit when you don't necessarily want to be there has been really important for me too. And some of that is kind of shedding maybe layers from this previous part of my life to move into the other part. But it's really easy to get bogged down in those patterns and behaviors and that vortex kind of energy from certain people. And so boundaries have been really an important part of the work to now get to this point for me as well.
I appreciate that insight. And I can imagine even in your actions right now of being on multiple people's podcasts, it's, I mean, I consider it like speed dating because I have 4 interviews in a row and, I have a beautiful bio, but fingers crossed that we're going to have, like, I clearly don't have a list of questions. It's conversational and you just don't know. But at the same time, it's my podcast. So, like, I'm growing into it and know that I've created the container. But for you, you're popping in and you don't know, like, oh, does this person have a studio or are they sitting next to their ironing like I am? Or are they, in their house or at their office or, whatever the things are. There's so much change, and you can look at that as an exciting adventure of, I wonder what this is going to be like, or it can feel overwhelming. So I love how you're choosing that it's an adventure.
Thank you. Me too. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a good time. So what do you want people to take away from the book?
My kind of tagline on this is the courage to pave your path in a world telling you who to be. And the world telling you who to be is a really important part of that, because there's a lot of external validators that create identity.
Mm,
And so if you're trying to move into a new chapter, but you're still stuck to those external pieces to form your identity, that's going to be really, really hard. And especially now, I come from legal, so I see AI and technology coming in a way that is truly disrupting a profession that's been pretty insulated for a long time.
mm.
And so a lot of identity crumbling. And the challenge is that for a lot of lawyers, I mean, boohoo lawyers, but for a lot of lawyers,
I'm
um,
really grateful for lawyers.
okay.
I just finished a 3.5 year divorce
So
process,
yes, so
and
yes.
I love my lawyer.
Okay, good. Love
Yes.
your lawyer day. Yes.
Yes.
But if they haven't been intentional in creating who am I beyond being a lawyer, there's a lot of kind of existential crisis going on. And so I see that very readily. And so that's kind of my takeaway is the courage to pave your path But remember that the world is constantly telling you who to be because that's where you need conviction to stay true to yourself and know who that self is in the beginning, which is where my dedication at the beginning of the book comes into, which is to my son. And it says, always fight for your light.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. I love it's so hard to say something after you hear always fight for your light. It's
Kind.
just good, right? It's a mic drop and an invitation at the same time. It's so beautiful. And I think that's such a it's a beautiful even journal prompt
Hmm.
of
How do I fight for my light? Yeah.
right, and what, yeah, why is it worth fighting for?
Yeah.
And and taking ownership of that. And then maybe that helps us not put it under our bed and instead like let it shine for everybody to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I've been, I guess this makes sense since I just wrote a novel, but I've been very into not journaling so much. I don't have a good journaling practice, but
Mm.
um, spontaneous kind of responding to prompts or going to a workshop and having that be part of it and just getting things out of your head and writing it down is such a powerful practice and it based in science too of like manifestation isn't just woo, it's actually science and part of that is writing it down and sharing it and getting it into the world. So yeah, that would be, thank you for the idea, that would be a very
You're
powerful
welcome.
prompt.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I love journaling. It's how I start my day
Wonderful.
in practice. So it's a way that I can kind of slow my thoughts down because I'm
Hmm.
writing them out, but then I also discover so much that I didn't even know was in there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I bet.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get their hands on the book, how they can have narrated yoga, all the good things.
Thank you, Wendy. AnusiaGillespie.com, or if that's too much of a mouthful to write out, you can do soultoldbook.com and it will redirect you. I'm on Instagram, Anusia Gillespie. That's pretty much, it's my name wherever social you go. It's just my name. And then if you are in the beautiful town of Marblehead, north of Boston, we are in the local bookstore. The novel is there, as well as Yoga Loft Marblehead, the yoga studio. And that's where you could come join us for a yoga experience as well. And then if you are on your computer, you can, of course, find it on Amazon.com.
How fun. We will link everything down in the show notes. And I love that we're neighbors.
Oh, where are you?
I'm in Bolton.
Oh,
I know, like we can play. Like sometimes I have people on the podcast that live in Dubai. So
right.
we can actually play. You can do yoga in my barn.
That's
Narrated yoga in my barn. I know,
okay. Yes, I'm saying
right?
yes to that.
I am full of good ideas. Let me,
You are. And then we'll
so
prompt
fun.
and then we'll journal.
That's right. And you can bring your son because I live on a fun farm and it's a great place to be a kid. And my 12-year-old will watch him.
Amazing.
We have just solved everything in the world.
We have. It
We're
does feel
so
that
good at this.
way.
Thank you so much, Anisha. I cannot wait to play.
Thank you, Wendy. Me as well.